The cold Arizona wind carried dust across the massive vehicle auction yard while hundreds of abandoned cars sat beneath a fading orange sunset like forgotten memories waiting to disappear. Engines rusted, windows cracked, paint peeled beneath years of neglect. Most people saw junk, but Ethan Walker saw possibility. Standing beside him was his 10-year-old daughter Lily, clutching his hand tightly as auctioneers shouted prices through loudspeakers. "Dad," she whispered nervously, "are you sure?" Ethan smiled despite exhaustion carved deeply into his face. "No," he admitted softly. "But sometimes being sure comes after taking the risk. Have you ever stood one decision away from changing your entire life while everyone around you thought you were making a terrible mistake?" 6 months earlier, Ethan had lost everything. His wife died unexpectedly from a brain aneurysm. Hospital bills swallowed their savings. The family repair shop went bankrupt. Now he worked nights repairing trucks while raising Lily alone. Every morning felt like survival. Every dollar mattered, yet somehow he had scraped together $2,500. Every cent he owned. And today he planned to spend it on 17 dead vehicles nobody else wanted. Across the auction yard, luxury SUVs pulled up near a private VIP area. Out stepped Vanessa Cole, CEO of Cole Automotive. 43 years old, powerful, brilliant, feared. The media called her the queen of auto manufacturing. Employees called her demanding. Competitors called her ruthless. Vanessa glanced toward Ethan's growing pile of purchased junk vehicles and laughed openly. "You bought all 17. The crowd nearby chuckled. Ethan nodded calmly. "Yes." Vanessa shook her head. "I own billion-dollar factories and even I wouldn't touch those cars." The surrounding investors laughed harder. One pointed toward a rusted pickup missing half its front bumper. "That's not a vehicle," he joked. "That's a cemetery." More laughter followed. Lily lowered her eyes immediately. Ethan noticed, and that hurt more than the mockery itself. Because humiliation feels different when your child witnesses it. Vanessa folded her arms confidently. "What's the plan?" Ethan looked across the damaged vehicles thoughtfully. "Fix them." The investors nearly laughed themselves breathless. 17 dead cars. Impossible. Waste of money. Vanessa smirked. "Some lessons are expensive." For a moment anger flashed across Ethan's face. Then disappeared. Because grief had already taught him something important. Not every insult deserves a response. Some deserve patience. He simply took Lily's hand and walked away. Behind them, laughter followed through the dusty air. That evening, Ethan parked the vehicles inside an abandoned warehouse he rented cheaply on the outskirts of Phoenix. The place smelled like oil, rust, and old dreams. Lily sat on a toolbox while Ethan studied each vehicle carefully. "You aren't upset?" she asked. "About what?" "What they said." Ethan wiped grease from his hands. Then looked toward his daughter. "Your mom used to tell me something." Lily smiled sadly. "What?" "People only laugh at impossible things until someone does them." Silence settled through the warehouse. Outside, desert winds rattled loose metal panels. Inside, 17 broken vehicles waited quietly. Most people saw failure. Ethan saw hidden value. Have you ever looked at something everyone abandoned and believed it still deserved another chance? As night deepened, Ethan worked beneath hanging shop lights while Lily slept on a small couch nearby. Hours passed, then days, then weeks. One repaired engine started, then another, then another. Meanwhile Vanessa completely forgot about the struggling single father she mocked at the auction. But 30 days later, she would remember him. And she would wish she hadn't laughed. 30 days later, sunlight poured across downtown Phoenix while reporters crowded outside Cole Automotive headquarters. News helicopters circled overhead. Business channels streamed live updates across giant screens inside corporate offices. Vanessa Cole stood frozen in the executive boardroom staring at a report she had already read 3 times. She still couldn't believe it. "Tell me this is wrong." The analyst shifted uncomfortably. "It isn't." Vanessa looked down again. Walker Fleet Services, a company that hadn't even existed a month ago. Revenue projections exploding. Local delivery contracts multiplying daily. 17 restored vehicles already operating across Arizona. And the founder, Ethan Walker. The single father she publicly mocked. Have you ever realized someone you dismissed saw an opportunity hidden completely from your view? Vanessa felt something unfamiliar. Embarrassment. Not because Ethan succeeded, Because she never gave him a chance to be taken seriously. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan tightened the hood latch on the final restored truck while Lily danced excitedly around the warehouse. All 17 work. Ethan laughed. The sound surprised him. Because after his wife died, laughter became rare. Almost forgotten. Yet here it was again. Real. Alive. The warehouse looked completely different now. Fresh paint. Working equipment. Employees repairing vehicles. Hope replacing despair. Each restored vehicle had become part of a small delivery fleet serving local businesses that couldn't afford major transportation companies. Ethan hadn't simply repaired cars. He had created jobs, second chances, new beginnings. Just like those vehicles, a black luxury SUV suddenly pulled into the lot. Workers stopped moving immediately. Vanessa stepped out. No cameras, no investors, no assistants, just her. Lily recognized her first. Dad. Ethan looked up slowly. The memory of laughter at the auction flashed through his mind. For a moment neither spoke. Then Vanessa walked toward him carefully. You were right. The words sounded difficult for her. Because powerful people rarely practice humility. Ethan wiped his hands on a rag. About what? Those cars. A faint smile touched his face. They weren't dead. Vanessa glanced around the busy warehouse. Employees worked proudly. Engines hummed. Customers arrived constantly. Life existed here. The kind built through sacrifice instead of privilege. You turned junk into a business. Ethan shook his head. No. He looked toward Lily helping organize paperwork nearby. I turned problems into opportunities. Something about that answer hit Vanessa harder than expected. Because lately her billion-dollar company had become obsessed with avoiding problems instead of solving them. What would you do if the person you underestimated taught you something success never could? Vanessa spent the afternoon walking through the warehouse. Listening, learning, watching. She noticed how employees respected Ethan. Not because they feared him. Because they trusted him. That realization hurt. Inside her own company, people obeyed her. But very few trusted her. Later, she found Ethan sitting alone beside one of the restored trucks as sunset painted the desert sky orange. Can I ask something? Sure. Why didn't you quit? Ethan stared toward the horizon quietly. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he reached into his wallet. Inside was an old photograph. His wife. Smiling. Alive. She believed in me when I didn't. Vanessa studied the picture carefully. She passed away. 2 simple words. Yet Ethan's eyes immediately filled with pain. 2 years ago. The desert wind moved softly between them. She used to say broken things aren't useless. His voice roughened. Sometimes they just need someone willing to see what they can become. Vanessa looked around the warehouse again. The trucks, the workers, the business, the man sitting beside her. Suddenly she understood. The cars were never the real story. Ethan rebuilt himself too. After loss, after grief, after humiliation, after everyone expected failure, including himself. A few days later, Vanessa shocked her entire executive team. Instead of launching a competitor against Walker Fleet Services, she proposed a partnership. Joint repair programs, training centers, employment opportunities for struggling single parents. Her board nearly revolted, but she didn't care, because for the first time in years, profit wasn't her only goal. Months later, Ethan stood beside Lily during the grand opening of their first training center. Former mechanics, veterans, single mothers, single fathers, people society often overlooked, all receiving opportunities, all receiving second chances. Vanessa approached quietly as the crowd celebrated. Remember the auction? Ethan laughed softly. How could I forget? She smiled. I was sure you were throwing your life away. Ethan looked toward the parking lot filled with restored vehicles shining beneath afternoon sunlight. Sometimes, he said gently, the difference between junk and opportunity is simply who's looking at it. Lily slipped her hand into his. Vanessa smiled at the little girl. And for the first time in a very long time, nobody felt superior. Nobody felt small. They were simply people, learning, growing, changing. As the celebration continued beneath the Arizona sky, Vanessa realized the most valuable lesson of her career. The world often labels things as worthless long before their true value has a chance to appear. The same is true for businesses. The same is true for dreams. And sometimes, the same is true for people.